my God.
District 5 units, reports of an active shooter, 641 Archer Avenue, 641 Archer Avenue in Aurora. 5 shot, multiple DOAs, 5 shot, multiple DOAs. It's Henry Pratt Warehouse, Henry Pratt Warehouse. District 2 has 4 units en route.
Chicago 531 Disco.
591, go ahead.
Chicago 531 Disco, patrol in the state, written order to the 2, show me en route to Aurora.
591, 10-4.
516, can you send that information out to where I was?
516, 10-4.
Cheryl 576, I'm in route code 2 from New Orleans area.
576, 10-4.
Chicago 579, I'll be en route code 2 for Manhattan.
It's pretty crazy, man. They're always talking about it on TV. All these mass shootings. But what's crazier is when it just happens right outside your fucking neighborhood, man. It's crazy how I could just look out my window and see helicopters, man. Right outside my fucking window, man. What are we doing about this, Trump?
Aurora has an active shooter situation. One officer is reported down at this time. Active shots being fired.
One of the guys was up in the office and he said that this person was shooting and he come running down and he was bleeding pretty bad. What I saw was the guy running down the aisle and with a pistol and with a laser on it.
You know, we've said in past incidents an active shooter is active until it's not, and that's until the police department has that confidence that they've either taken a shooter into custody, they've neutralized him or her, or they've determined that there's no threat. Now, one thing that we do know, and what we often do during these types of situations, is try to understand what we can make based on some of this aerial coverage. We look at our affiliate there, WLS in Chicago. One thing that I noticed as they were zooming in was you saw several emergency vehicles that were outside, a number of ambulances that are essentially lined up, but they're not moving. So if they had people that were injured at the moment, they would obviously be, putting them in, trying to get them out and off on the way to the hospital. Now, to be sure, there's a lot we don't know since this coverage is coming after the incident. Oftentimes, these are over in minutes. So if there were injuries, they would triage, they would put those people in the ambulances and get them on the road. But again, looking at the police presence, now you don't see that continued influx of officers. It looks as though, at least as of this point, that they have as much resource as they need to contain the building, and then we can expect that they'll be going through. This is a large facility, as we can see, of this manufacturing company, and so they'll have a lot of ground to cover to work through to determine is there a threat that's there? Are there injured people? Are there people that are possibly hiding in place? We always talk about the response that one has in these types of incidents. Sometimes that's sheltering in place, and so they'll be trying to work through to find people in order to get them out, to account for everyone, and again ensure that there are no injuries and no continued threat.
Thank you very much. My name is Chief Kristen Zeman. I'm the chief of the Aurora, Illinois Police Department. At approximately 1:24 today, the Aurora Police Department received multiple calls for an active shooter at 641 Archer Avenue, a manufacturing warehouse. At 1:28, officers arrived and were fired upon immediately. 2 of the initial 4 officers entering the building were shot. Additional officers began to arrive and were also fired upon. A total of 5 officers were struck by gunfire. The other officers on the scene located gunshot victims inside the building. At this time, we have confirmed that 5 victims are deceased. The Aurora Fire Department arrived on scene to stage with medics. A regional law enforcement response was coordinated to include Rescue Task Force, and several teams of officers went inside to locate and engage the offender. The building is 29,000 square feet, and when they located the offender, they engaged in gunfire with him, ultimately killing him. The shooter is identified as Gary Martin. He is a 45-year-old man, and we believe he was an employee of the company. At this time, we aren't sure of the motive of this act of violence. We do not have the identities of the deceased, but we would like family members to know that unification for the victims and witnesses that were in the building will be at Aurora University Public Safety Building located at 1408 South Lawn. All 5 police officers were transported to local hospitals, and from there, 2 were airlifted to Chicago area trauma centers. A 6th officer is being treated for a knee injury. I want to take this opportunity to send positive energy to those officers who are being treated and to the officers and medics who showed up from all over the state to render aid. This message is for them. Thank you for your selfless act. Thank you for running towards gunfire and putting your lives in danger to protect those inside the business. My heart goes out to the victims and their families who simply went to work today like any other day. We offer our sincere condolences, and as the facts of this tragedy unfold, we will provide information and attempt to make sense of it.